Is the United States abandoning Ukraine? I ask this because this past week we saw 5 different things happen that make you go, wait a minute, but why? And I figured I just wanted to break it down in a long form video since, I've done individual videos on this and a lot of people have been asking me, is it now that the U.S. is just finally giving up? And it's weird because we saw so many things from Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, Donald Trump, and just things that are happening in the background. So I figured, let's break it all down. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe, you turn on notifications, and you give this video a thumbs up. Let's start off with one of the most obvious and things that I think really kind of was like, ooh, when we saw it. And that is Marco Rubio. Just a few days ago, he put an announcement online wishing Russia, for the first time in modern years, since Russia started their war, he wished Russia a happy Russia Day. It's weird when you wish them something when it's like, but they're the bad guys. In it, he says, the United States remains committed to supporting the Russian people as they continue to build on their aspirations for a brighter future. We also take this opportunity to reaffirm the United States' desire for constructive engagement with the Russian Federation to bring about a durable peace between Russia and Ukraine. It is our hope that peace will foster more mutually beneficial relations between our countries. Now, I feel like when the Trump administration wrote that, they said, you know what? If we put this thing together, it might show Russia, look, us here in the United States really want to work with you to get this to end. But we've been doing that and trying the Donald Trump diplomacy way for months. And if anything, the situation has gotten worse. Sure, dialogue is happening, but the only dialogue that comes out is Vladimir Putin saying we want what we want and then some, Ukraine saying let's have a ceasefire, Russia saying no, the United States then stepping in saying we're giving you 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks doesn't happen. We then later heard from Pete Hegseth, who was on Capitol Hill, in which he got grilled, I'll tell you that. Senators really went into him, but we heard from him twice. Okay? The first time was about funding for Ukraine. During his Capitol Hill grilling, he says the United States will be reducing funding allocated for military assistance to Ukraine in their upcoming budgets. For those who don't know, every year, pretty much since Obama, Ukraine has gotten a sum of money, a large sum of money that could be used to buy weapons to help out in things. This was something given under Obama, then Trump, then Biden, and then not really under Trump because he's trying to cut it out. And in looking at those numbers, it almost seems like by 2026, they want to limit that down to pretty much zero, which never really made sense to me because we would always allocate X amount of dollars that Ukraine could spend with us, then to use that equipment in Ukraine. So that money was staying here, creating jobs, keeping the economy kind of flowing. And according to Hegseth here, he says, this administration takes a very different view of that conflict. We believe that a negotiated peaceful settlement is the best interest of both parties and our nation's interest, especially with all the competing interests around the world. In which you say to yourself, you guys have spent billions of dollars in the past 3 years. That money was well spent because it eliminated one of your largest threats, Russia. And at this very moment, Russia as a threat is still the worst thing. You can make the comparison to China, but it's not. It's Russia. The best interest for the United States should be giving Ukraine what they need to stop Russia and force them to come to the table. But now I just want to back up for a second here. When it comes to the budget for 2026, we have not technically gotten any real information about what is being cut, how it's going to be cut. But all we know is that, as Hegseth is saying here, they're reallocating money to put, quote, U.S. warfighters and their needs first. And it's something that's weird because we saw like 2 things with Pete Hegseth. He's like not promoting, but saying that something worse is coming. And if you notice something about a week and a half ago, an announcement kind of came out under the radar, actually from the Ukrainian side, that the United States had transferred 20,000 missiles that were earmarked for Ukraine to send them over to the Middle East. Now, under that drawdown that they kind of have, the U.S. does have the authority to do that, okay? But it came at a time in which we were trying to figure out what was going on here. This is before we knew that Israel would strike Iran. Leading up to those strikes, we saw U.S. embassies kind of pushing out employees, then missiles being diverted. We're all trying to figure out why, and well, now we do. Now we know what happens here. And so I understand the movement of that. But in the way that the Trump administration kind of announces things, they could have said something to Ukrainians. Look, hey, we have a bigger problem right now that we need X, Y, and Z. We'll get you other stuff, though. And what we're finding is that, according to today, Pete Hegseth said on Fox, that they had transferred anti-UAV systems from Ukraine to the Middle East because of what's happening now. And we got to protect U.S. bases in other countries. We get that. But now you're putting Ukraine at a disadvantage, and there needs to be something done to help this. And since you won't let Ukraine buy Patriot systems, there's got to be something else, which is why you may not have noticed, because there was no highlight, there was no headlines. The United States did secretly approve, I think it was about $30 million worth of supplies for Ukraine from, keep in mind, money that was already allocated to Ukraine worth about $2.8 billion under Biden that Trump doesn't use. Money that's sitting in an account that Ukraine could be using on missiles and weapons bought here in the U.S. Trump won't allow it. But they did approve $30 million, which is just like, it's a drop in a bucket to what Ukraine actually needs. Which brings us right to Trump. It was back on May 28th that Donald Trump, after Russia had really slammed into Ukraine, Donald Trump had given Vladimir Putin 2 weeks. Quote, "We're going to find out very soon. It'll take about 2 weeks or a week and a half." On May 28th, he made that, saying that he would, kind of tell Russia that they need to calm things down or show that they actually want peace. It's been 2 weeks. Yesterday, actually, was it 2 days ago? It's been 2 weeks. And since then, we've seen Russia launch over 400 drones almost every night. Multiple missiles, killing civilians, going after only civilians. Because Ukraine, showing what they can do, only go after military targets or fertilizer plants like we saw today, or Russian oil. You get rid of the fertilizer and the oil because Russia makes their money that way, and they use that money to buy weapons. Then they go after the plants that make the weapons. And then they go after the air bases that shoot the weapons. Ukraine is targeting specifically certain targets so that militarily they can't buy the stuff, make the stuff, or shoot the stuff. What does Russia do? They kill civilians. Kherson, Kharkiv. You go anywhere in Ukraine. Russia's not hitting anything military. Nothing. There's no evidence of it at all, even though the Russian media is saying we destroyed, X, Y, and Z. It's not true. They're only going after civilians. And so today, we know that Donald Trump is currently on a call with Vladimir Putin. And obviously they're talking about Iran, but they need to talk about Ukraine. What's going to happen? It's been 2 weeks. And, do we want to say that they get off the phone call and Donald Trump says, well, I gave them the 2 weeks ultimatum and now we're moving forward to help Ukraine? I doubt that's going to happen. Because, once again, it feels like Ukraine is being completely shuttered here from the United States. And we only see that further with what's happening in the G7, in which they proposed, you know what? Russia's making a lot of money off of the oil, especially now. Think about it. Oil prices rose by 8% because of what's going on between Israel and Iran. And so G7 said, right now there's a cap on Russian fuel or oil at $60 a barrel. Let's bring that to 45. Now, for those who don't know, the market obviously fluctuates. Okay, I think it's at $78 or maybe more right now. And so they said in order to hurt Russia and force them to come to the table, we're going to put a cap on it, on cap on oil. So then that way Russia can't make as much money. And that way, when other countries are selling it for 75, Russia's stuck only making it at 60. They can't make as much money. Now, Russia has been able to get around it. The Shadow Fleet, in which right now U.S. congressmen, senators, all that stuff, they all have bills on the table that could be putting sanctions on countries that buy it. John Thune, we're waiting for you to actually put out this bill on the floor in the Senate. But that bill hasn't been announced or hasn't been officially put out. In the United States, they're refusing this. They don't want oil at 45. And we don't know why. We could speculate and say it's because they're trying to foster a relationship with Russia. But it doesn't make any sense. If you want this war to end, and maybe you don't want to send weapons. Maybe you want to stop the killing. Then do the things that are easy. Do the things that don't involve sending money. Put sanctions on countries buying Russian gas and oil. Places like Germany will suffer, and they know they will. Speaking to senators, which if you haven't saw my previous video, I spoke to Senator Blumenthal. Germany is willing to take that risk and be kind of hurt for a little bit, knowing that down the line it's going to be fine. Put the sanctions on. Make that happen. Get the gas or the oil down to 45. Those are the two easiest things you can do that don't involve sending weapons or money. And so, as we look back, we see a week and a half where it feels like the United States is abandoning Ukraine. And I do want, if you are Ukrainian, I do want you to know, as civilians and as senators, I spoke to senators on both sides, Republicans and Democrats. We're not abandoning you. We are here for you. We want to help you. We want to do things for you. Our current president, for some reason, most likely because of money, doesn't. And that's the sad part. And look, you can make the argument, say, because I know a lot of people like saying that, Trump is a Russian agent. I think Trump just likes money. And money speaks. Because every time Steve Witkoff goes to Russia, he gets looked at to, hey, look at this property, you could do this, you could do this, you could do that. I think Trump wanted this war to end quickly so that his companies can make a lot of money. His friends can make a lot of money. And when Ukraine refused to give in, he got angry. And I feel like because he has this friendship with Vladimir Putin, he keeps on telling Vladdy Daddy that when it comes time and this war ends, we're going to flood your market with money and all these investments. And that's why he's doing what he's doing. He's hoping that he could punish Ukraine and have them fold, which doesn't make any sense. And it makes us, the United States, which used to be a world ally, really seem horrible. And that's where we stand right now. So is the United States abandoning Ukraine? It feels like it. It truly does. But the people of the United States are not abandoning Ukraine. I'll be sure to keep you guys updated on everything happening around the world. So please do subscribe to my YouTube channel, turn on notifications, and give this video a thumbs up. As a reminder, we do have a free newsletter which emails out videos like this and all of our news. So if you want to get that, go ahead and click the link in the description of this video. And I thank you guys again. Please stay safe.